Hey guys, welcome back to the second episode of Fashion Meets History with yours truly, Dami Davis. This week's episode is featuring Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy Onassis. It is a mouthful, but she was worth it. She was very iconic. Before we get into the content, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, share, all the things. All right, so let's get into it. Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis was born Jacqueline Bouvier in 1929 at the height of the Great Depression in New York. But unlike a lot of other people in America, Jackie was born into class and wealth. Both her parents were New York socialites. Unfortunately, her father was a bit of a gambler, and it was the Great Depression, and he was a stockbroker. So stocks and bonds combined with his need to go to the casino lost their family wealth. Fortunately, Jackie's mother had the foresight to think ahead and marry another rich man, thus taking care of herself and her two young daughters. As a child, Jackie was always known to be beautiful, intelligent, and independent, trademarks of her character that are kind of what make her a fashion icon today in 2023 and in the 60s when she was the hottest thing since sliced bread. When her mother remarried her stepfather, they moved from New York to McLean, Virginia, another VA baddie. Here she went to boarding school in DC, which really is what propelled her into her education mode. Jackie was kind of ahead of her years in the fact that she was determined not to just go to school and be a housewife. Jackie was all about her studies, another reason she's a fashion icon. From boarding school in DC, Jackie went on to attend the well-known elite Vassar in New York. There she excelled in her studies, eventually traveling abroad to study at the Sorbonne, another elite institution in France, and then later to George Washington University, where she completed her studies. From there, she was awarded the much-coveted internship for Vogue magazine back in Paris, which is where her journey really took off as the fashion icon that we know today. As the First Lady of these United States, a lot of the American public had an issue with Jackie's love of French fashion, but France, Italy, Europe, kind of in general, has always been the hot spot for fashion. So we just had some fashion haters out here. After Vogue, Jackie went back to New York and pursued journalism and photography, where she became a superstar in her own right. That's where she bumped into the love of her life, Mr. JFK. When she met the president, it didn't take long for him and her to be completely smitten. They were engaged in June of 1953 and were married shortly after in September. At the time of their marriage, JFK was a prominent New York senator. Well, more like a rising star. But he definitely rose to the top because in the 1960 presidential election, JFK was on the ticket and he was supported by none other than his beautiful wife, Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy. Many say that his marriage to Jackie propelled him, in the eyes of the American public, into winning the Democratic ticket and the presidency altogether. As First Lady, Jackie definitely shook it up. I mean, no shade to the former First Ladies, but there were none quite like Jackie before Jackie. Fashion elitism was not really the direction a lot of these women were going. I mean, at the time, JFK was the youngest president ever. Many other presidents and first ladies had been well into their 70s and 80s, much like today. So fashion wasn't necessarily at the forefront of these women's minds, but Jackie gave us everything that we were missing and more when she walked into the Oval Office. As First Lady, Jackie introduced us to some fan favorites like the lovely pillbox hat, Hermes scarves, the Gucci sandal bag, and much more. But as I mentioned before, many in the American public hated the fact that Jackie was so obsessed with European fashion of the day. But who can blame the girl? She just knew what looked good and she liked what she liked. So even though Gucci, Chanel, and Valentino were top tier favorites for Miss Kennedy, when the American public had something negative to say, she gave them something right back. She basically admitted like American style. American stylist Oleg Cassini and much beloved Halston propelled into fame after, you guessed it, Jackie Kennedy wore their designs as First Lady. Oleg Cassini was coined with inventing the Jackie style because many of her suits, which had the boxy blazer shapes and the oversized buttons of the day, created the signature 60s look. On the other hand, American designer Halston was known to have the pillbox hat, which was Jackie's staple item in much of JFK's presidential term. So let's run down the list. What exactly is Jackie known for giving American fashion in the 60s? Well, let's start here. The pillbox hat, long gloves, Hermes scarves, monochromatic dresses and gowns, capes, A-line dresses, and the luxurious trapeze coats that she always fabulously had with her dresses and matching suits. As mentioned previously, European designers that we all know and love today, like Gucci, Valentino, and Chanel, also benefited from Jackie's love for them and just pure good taste in putting them together. This sandal bag that we love from Gucci, the iconic look, Jackie made it poppin' when she raised the sandal bag in front of her to hide her face from paparazzi, thus propelling the sandal bag into the fame that it has today. Gucci even named a bag after Jackie. Valentino was known to design many of Jackie's signature gowns for events, such as meeting Cambodian elected officials during JFK's run in office. And then, of course, the infamous pink Chanel suit. Now, before JFK's assassination, Jackie had worn the lovely pink Chanel suit with the matching pillbox hat and gloves at least 3 or 4 other times, but no occasion is quite remembered like that day, November 22nd, 1963, on the grassy knoll. That day will live forever as a day of infamy. Much like last week's episode with President Lincoln, JFK was assassinated in a horrifying manner. And at the end of the day, America looked at the beloved pink Chanel suit and saw a blood-stained disaster. Unfortunately, the pillbox hat and matching gloves were lost to history, but the suit, it remains. It's a part of the National Archives here in DC, and her daughter, Carolyn Kennedy, signed an agreement stating that the dress won't be seen for at least 100 years. It's an iconic moment for fashion and for history. After JFK's assassination in 1963, Jackie retired back into public life, balancing depression and motherhood. A few years later, in 1968, her beloved brother-in-law, Robert Kennedy, was also assassinated. Finally, Jackie garnered some peace when she married the illustrious Aristotle Onassis, a Greek tycoon who amassed a hefty fortune. Fun fact, Jackie was actually introduced to Aristotle Onassis while she was still married to JFK. She met him when her younger sister was dating him. Then tragedy struck Mrs. Kennedy yet again. In 1975, Aristotle Onassis' health was rapidly declining and he died on March 15th. After his death, Jackie returned to New York, where she picked up publishing and journalism and politics. those Kennedys are going to commit to politics, and Jackie was a Kennedy for life. She campaigned for her brother-in-law Ted against Jimmy Carter for the Democratic seat for the presidential election. Ted, as we know, had some difficulties and did not seek the presidential election run and remained a New York senator until he died a few years ago. Jackie was also known to profusely support Democratic nominee Bill Clinton. And sadly, in 1994, Jackie had a series of mishaps, starting with a fall from her horse on her farm in Virginia, where she discovered that she had cancer. And in May of 1944, she passed away. Jackie had 2 children from her marriage to JFK, Carolyn and JFK Jr. Once again, tragedy befell the Kennedys. Her beloved son, JFK Jr., died in a plane crash. But let's get back to the fashion. So we talked about some big name designers that Jackie basically propelled into what we know them as today. One that we probably don't give too much credit to or simply forgot is Oleg Cassini. Oleg Cassini was a Russian who came to America and basically became the exclusive couturier or designer for Miss Jackie Kennedy. He's credited with the Jackie style that we know, the boxy suit with the oversized buttons, among other things. All in all, Jackie lived a life of glamour and tragedy, but that's what makes her the icon that we look up to today. No matter what life threw at her, she remained poised and stylish. She's someone that we all love to love, and we all love to recreate fashion looks after. She will forever be an icon for her brains and her beauty. And that wraps up this week's episode of Fashion Meets History. Next up, we'll be talking about Coco Chanel and her rendezvous with the Nazi Germany during World War II. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And of course, if there's any particular story that you guys would like to talk about, drop it down in the comments and I'll be sure to add it to the list. Bye.